Hello and welcome to the Northeast Ohio Media Group Candidate Debates. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mara Zurich. Today we're hosting a debate for Independence City Council up for election November 3rd. In a moment, the candidates will introduce themselves, but first, here are the rules for our debate. We'll start with 1 minute for each candidate to introduce him or herself and explain why he or she is running. Then we'll ask questions, giving each candidate 90 seconds to answer and a minute for any follow-up. At the end, we'll allow 10 minutes for the candidates to ask each other questions, with 60 seconds permitted for the answers. Councilman Wagner, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Bob Wagner. I grew up in Independence, went to the middle school, the primary school, middle school, and high school. Graduated in 1966 and went to the United States Military Academy and spent 38 and a half years in the military. So after 42 and a half years, I returned to Independence. I believe in service to your country, service to your city, and that's really why I'm running, is to contribute and give back to the city. And I've served for the last 2 years. I felt it was a very valuable experience, and I enjoyed participating with the other council members as we look to the city's priorities, and I would like to continue to help set the focus for the future. Thank you.
Great. Mr. Narduzzi, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Tom Narduzzi, and I thank you for the invitation to come and meet with you here today. I'm running for City Council that I may continue to serve the community that my family has called home for more than 90 years. Independence is one of the best places to live in all of Ohio. We provide the finest services, programs, and everyday way of life anywhere that I know of. We have those great amenities because 96 cents of every dollar that comes into the city revenues is provided by the people who earn a living in Independence. We must continue to grow and nurture the tax base for many years into the future to guarantee the next generation's success. We have plenty of room to grow on Rockside Road, on Pleasant Valley, and in our own center of town. I served on City Council for 6 years, Planning Commission for 6 years, and Zoning Board of Appeals for 8. I ran the gauntlet and understand how city government works. I've been known as a
Mr. Narduzzi, I'm sorry, I
no-nonsense.
gotta cut you off. Councilwoman Kapusta, it's your turn.
Thank you. My name is Kathleen Kapusta, and I have been a resident of Independence for a little over 30 years. This is the completion of my first term on City Council, and I have served the city in other capacities. I have been the coordinator of senior services for 14 years, and also served on the Board of Education in Independence for 11 years as a member, vice president, and president. I find this role as City Council to be both challenging and frustrating at the same time, and I have chosen to run again because I too, as my co-council people and candidates here have indicated, feel that service to the community is vital. Our family is very active and has been. We had 3 children who went through the system, have graduated, and service to the community is partly a driving force for us as a family, and we want to continue that. Also, I believe that I have things to offer to our residents in improving the quality of life for our residents and our business partners. Thank you, Maura.
All right, Mr. Trakas, it's your turn.
Thank you. My name is Jim Trakas. I am a 50-year resident of the City of Independence my entire life as well. I went through Independence Public Schools, went to the Ohio State University. I'd like to be one of the 7 people whom the people of Independence get to choose this November to have the honor of representing you on City Council. I have had that honor before. I was a 2-term councilman as well as a 4-term state representative. I'd like to offer my experience. We have 2 good individuals who are running for mayor, and I'd like to fill one of those roles to help some of the people who are in this panel to help set city policy over the next 2 years. I have some specific ideas that I'd like to bring, a little something different that people haven't talked about, but I'd like to try to put together, number 1, a revenue sharing between the city and the school district to help make up for the money that's being lost by Governor Kasich's veto of a school funding budget. We've been losing money for years relative to the rest of the communities. I have other innovative ideas. I'd like to have the opportunity to serve. I know how to get the job done and like to do it for you.
All right, thank you all very much. Let's kick off the questioning with term limits. Mayor Greg Kurtz has served on and off again for more than about 2 decades, but Independence will have a new mayor in November after voters rejected changing the charter to extend term limits. Did you support the push to change the charter to allow 3 consecutive terms? Why or why not? Then Councilwoman Kapusta, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you. I had the opportunity to serve on the Charter Review Committee in January of 2014, and at that time that was something that was well vetted at the committee level, and it was not thought to be something that would be brought forward, so it was not a charter review change that was brought forward. I did, however, support it at the committee level, and then when we had the vote brought forth by the petition from our residents, I too again supported it. The reason I supported it is because I believe that when you have an individual who is strong and is working in the right direction for the city, I hate to see that decision made by a term limit. I think the decision should be made by our residents as to whether they remain in office.
All right, Mr. Trakas, would you like to go next?
I would. I support term limits. I supported term limits at the state. I'd like to see at the federal level, to be very honest with you. I think that's where it belongs the most. But I support the term limits the way they are currently for the city. I find that the only people who tend to care about term limits are media people and politicians, and most of our constituents are neither.
All right, Councilman Wagner?
I do support the term limits. I think that it's important to bring in new ideas and new vision and make sure that the broader aspect of the community is being reached. I think by establishing term limits, you allow for a change, and I think that with council members being there to help provide some of the continuity, and the fact that in this case, for example, both the candidates running for mayor have been on council, I think we have plenty of continuity. I appreciate what the outgoing mayor has done, as do the rest of the residents. He deserves our gratitude and thanks, but I think that we'd be well served by the term limits and a new mayor.
Great, thank you. Mr. Narduzzi, your turn.
I do support term limits also. Unfortunately for Mayor Kurtz, I mean, what a mayor he was. If you look back at his accomplishments, why would you want him to go? So I think a lot of people had a hard time with, putting a new leader in charge. But we do have one candidate that I agree that is probably just as good and can be like Mayor Kurtz did and move the city in a successful fashion. What I would like to see is term limits for council be raised to 4 years, but we tried that and it seemed to work. 2 years goes by awful fast.
All right, candidates, you now have 60 seconds for a follow-up. Mr. Trakas, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, not really.
Councilwoman?
I would just say I respect people's decision to have term limits, but I still contend that we want to go with the person and the strength that that person has in the office. And the voters will still ultimately decide whether we have term limits or not, because if that candidate isn't seen as viable, the voters won't re-elect that person.
Mr. Narduzzi, anything else you'd like to say?
No, I mean, I think I've said what I needed to say. I mean, I do support term limits, and we'll see what happens this coming election.
All right, Councilman Wagner?
I guess with my military background, where you change commanders every 2 to 3 years, and behind each of us, there was a whole string of people who were, half of them at least were probably better. New people brought new ideas, good ideas, and I do support term limits.
Great, thank you all. On the topic of charter changes, would you support a change to allow apartments or other multifamily housing to be built in Independence? Why or why not? Councilman Wagner, would you like to go first?
I think we have to be open to change, and I think as we look to the possibility of change, we have to look at where to do it. I think we have the opportunity to do it in selected areas of the community. We have to look at what is happening. First of all, I believe in maintaining the character and integrity of Independence. Independence is a very special place, and I think that we can't lose. However, I do think that in certain places we'd be well served by creating opportunities for our senior citizens, empty nesters, and young professionals to be able to live in Independence without owning a home.
All right, Councilwoman Kapusta?
I believe that as long as the character of the housing is suitable to the community and sustains the character of the community, yes, I'm agreeable to that. There has to be qualifications, without a doubt. I agree with Councilman Wagner that you need to be cautious as to where this is placed, and our community has prided itself for many years on being a single-family community, and we want to continue the sense of togetherness there. I do believe, though, that there are many entities within our community that are not being as well served as they could. I've seen in my work with the senior citizens for 14 years, many having to move out and leave our city because we didn't have alternatives for them, and I'd like to see that changed.
All right, Mr. Narduzzi, would you like to go next?
I think the city has to be open to different types of housing. Multifamily housing is a word that's probably cursed by many people in Independence, so you have to be cautious on what type of housing it would be, where the housing would be located, who the housing would be for. If it would be for seniors, would it be open to, everybody? Would it be picked out to be for the group that works on Rockside Road? Would it be for young people? So there's a lot of questions to be asked, and it's a very loaded question. To answer it, yes, I'm open for ideas, but believe me, the ideas have to be very well thought out before I would agree to it.
All right, Mr. Trakas?
I'm adamantly opposed to multifamily housing and apartments in Independence. When we had the vote in 1967 to reverse the apartments that then Mayor Katavish had agreed with, I thought that was a prudent choice. A single-family community, I think, is the best community that we have in our character. There are multiple opportunities for people to live in affordable homes, but I think the reality of it is when you look at what apartments do to communities in terms of the school system, just the cost associated with that, I'd be really wary about seeing that, and I've seen that happen in other communities. I think that we've got a great community the way it is, and I would maintain that. The people of Independence have voted about a dozen times in my lifetime against senior housing, and I think that's the reality. And so we got to do everything we can to keep people in their homes and provide services for them and options for them. But I don't think we're going to have, I don't think it'll ever be reversed.
All right, so Mr. Trakas, this is for you. So what can Independence do to draw in those, young professionals, millennials from cities like Lakewood, Cleveland Heights? So what does Independence have to offer if they don't have these, I guess I would say higher end luxury apartments that we're looking for?
Sure. Well, I think it's already happening. We have people who have been moving into town. I think some of the greatest millennials are people who bought their parents' houses and other relatives, and that's what Independence has been done for many years. But I think you create a culture and a community that people want to live in, and people will come and they'll find ways to do it. So I lived with my mom and dad for 30 years. And I had lunch with Mr. DiGeronimo down at Independence Excavating. He says, "You live with your parents?" So his secretary was selling as their house, and I bought a house. That was my affordable house. So I had to wait a while before I could put 20% down and buy the house. So I think that we are doing that. But by some of the ideas that we have on the drawing board right now with this vibrant downtown idea and other types of things will attract people to our town. I think that's really critical to do. But I think the composition and character of Independence is diverse and excellent right now as it is.
All right, Mr. Narduzzi, is there anything you'd like to add?
I just want to get back when I say I'm in favor of multifamily housing. Mr. Trakas said the word apartments. Don't get me wrong, I don't want apartments in Independence, but I would go for a high-end condo living, not only for seniors, but for empty nesters that are in their 60s, 70s, and still have a lot of life ahead of them. I know there's a lot of divorced people that are forced to move out of Independence that are vital to the ongoings of Independence. I mean, they've been here their whole lives, and now, because of whatever reasons, they can't afford to stay in their homes, but they would stay in a nice condo unit. There's senior citizens that have plenty of money to move into a condo and have somebody take care of everything, where they can't afford to stay in their houses anymore and take care of cutting the grass, washing the windows, doing the driveway. So I just want to make sure that you're clear on.
Thank you, Mr. Narduzzi. Councilwoman Kapusta?
Thank you. I agree. When I'm talking about multi-person housing or dwelling housing, I am not in support of apartments either. I am in support of purchased units that are market rate, that would allow people to be able to enter the community. And in deference to what Mr. Trakas said, he was fortunate that he, like my own children, had parents here that could kind of bring them into the community. But we all know that there are a lot of younger people who I think could be great assets to our community, perhaps many working right in our own community on Rockside Road, who could use that alternate form of housing, and this may be an entree point for them.
Thank you. Councilman?
Well, I do agree with many of the comments that have been made. I think that, there are plenty of people who the city would benefit by having live here. Whether they're senior or young professionals that don't care to take care of and maintain a home and a property. And if we had the luxury condos that would be purchased, we would have I think we could build them such that they would be attractive, they would be a plus for the community in their appearance and in who they would bring to the community. But again, these would be luxury apartments, luxury condos. And I think if we look to neighboring communities, even Brecksville, they have some that you drive by them and you don't even pay attention to the fact that they're there, but they're quality facilities. And I don't know why we couldn't have the similar sort of thing.
All right. So Independence is a smaller city. What more can the city do to share services and collaborate with its neighbors? All right. Mr. Narduzzi, would you like to go first?
I think we do it now in some regards. We share our building department, I believe, with Brooklyn Heights or Brecksville, one of the two, I can't remember which one. I know we use Brecksville's equipment when ours breaks down. It's all good as long as it's a win-win situation for both cities. I think we share inspectors with Brecksville in their building department. We share our animal control with Brecksville. I've seen our trucks out in Brecksville. So it's a win-win for both cities if it's done in the right format. As far as revenue sharing goes, that's a totally different, I wouldn't support that in a million years.
All right, Councilman Wagner.
I think, one thing you also have to look at is it's very hard to average up when you're at the higher end. And I think we're at the higher end in many of the facilities and capabilities that we have. So we have to be careful as we're in partnerships that we don't lower or reduce any of our responses to our residents in any service or any activity that we provide. On the other hand, in some cases, it makes perfect sense. And it's, when an ambulance comes, perhaps you don't care who's driving it, what the color it is. You just want it to be there. So there are certain things where we have been doing it for years. And from when I was a kid here in the 60s, we were sharing some aspects. But I think we have to be very careful that when we do it, we maintain the services and the same response. When the EMTs are called to one of our homes, they know the people. And they know what to expect when they get there because they've been dealing with it. It's not like you're getting a random vehicle that showed up. And so I think that the closeness of the community is largely due to the fact that we control our own services, our own responses, and our own activities.
All right, Councilwoman.
I can pick up on the last point of Councilman Wagner with controlling our own services. There is a transportation service between various communities that assists seniors. Mm-hmm. And we've been offered the opportunity to go into that a decade ago, perhaps. And we elected not to, in part because our drivers know our seniors. They go to their home day after day, week after week to pick them up. They can help us understand nuances and changes in their behavior. And that's just one aspect of it, but it's important. I do support sharing of services. We have always shared. We're actually even sharing a mechanic with Brooklyn Heights right now who's working on some of our fire equipment. And that's just maybe a little thing, but it's great to have that knowledge base shared back and forth. The other thing I believe is that Independence always maintains itself as a leader within the county system. If you looked at the number of countywide meetings that are held at our community center, everything from the municipal offices on aging to the service directors, I think that is where we shine, and I'd love to see us continue to do that, to take that leadership role and share the knowledge we have, and when appropriate and possible, the resources.
Okay, Mr. Trakas?
Thank you. Yes, I concur with my fellow candidates, and most importantly, we can share the ability to purchase materials by buying in larger bulk. There's no question we can do that. When I was on council the first time, I proposed that we buy salt with a little consortium of communities, and we ended up doing that, and we saved everybody a lot of money. So I definitely think there's a lot to do as it relates to purchased materials. As it relates to other types of services, I don't think it's applicable really to independents, and we have excellent services, and as General Wagner said, why would you want to lower the standards for anybody? And so I think we've done a pretty good job of that. So while regional cooperation is something that I think is talked about a lot, we're a community that is probably not as applicable as some of the other communities there in Greater Cleveland.
All right, Councilwoman, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No.
All right, Councilman? Mr. Narduzzi?
No, thank you.
Mr. Trakas?
Well, I can't add to my own statement.
All right, well, thank you very much. All right, so residents have been buzzing about this idea of a new downtown for the city. What do you want downtown to look like, and what do you hope to see happen? All right, Councilman, would you like to go first?
I think clearly when we look at the city as it is right now in the downtown area, it is perhaps not as attractive or productive as it should be or could be. And it's a tad bit unsightly. So the question is, do we use it as an economic development opportunity? Do we let it sit the way it is, or do we make a change? And I think that the reality of it is most people want the old building gone, and they want to see something different there. The real question is bringing an agreement to what that should be. And I think that a lot of work is being done by the economic director for the city, and I think there's some good plans in place that will make it attractive and productive for the city and be an overall plus. So I think that we should be open to the opportunity for it to be far better than it is right now. And I think that we're on the road to making that happen.
Great. Mr. Trakas, you can go next.
Thank you. I believe very strongly that the city should not be putting public dollars in and investing in buying property. I remember in 1992, they said they were going to buy a number of locations, and they're going to clean them up and sell them in 6 months. We still own those properties, so I just don't think that that's a prudent use of taxpayers' dollars. My belief is that Independence is a small town. were not huge for retail. And unfortunately, because of that, it's hard to attract people from a retail perspective. So I think we definitely are going to redevelop the center of town. I like to see more park and things that benefit the residents and the people who work within our community to increase the quality of life in our community. I'm skeptical about any type of real economic development that we will definitely be doing on Rockside and Pleasant Valley roads, but I think it's really difficult there. I'd like to make this like Sugar and Falls, make it a destination where people can go, and maybe park spaces, and you have activities for seniors and children. But I know there's a lot of other ideas out there, but I really don't think that it can be something that's a huge economic driver for us, because the studies have shown time and again we're just a little bit too small of a community. I think we've all seen how many grocery stores have gone out in the shopping center in the center of town.
All right, Mr. Narduzzi, go ahead.
Boy, when I look at our downtown area, it's been the same for the last, I'm 54 years old, it's been about the same for the last 54 years minus the middle school. So we're not moving fast or whatever we're doing there. But I agree with a couple of statements. The location of our downtown would really not be justified for outside people coming in to use it. So to invest a ton of money in our downtown, I just don't see it would be, I don't think it would be worth it. Because of 77, everybody kind of bypasses Little Independence. If 21 was the main, it was the main drag, okay, we would have a different, I might have a different perspective on it. I'd like to see it cleaned up, maybe a beautification of the downtown area. It just looks old and beat and weathered, like I said. It probably looks the same as it did 54 years ago, so that's how I remember it. I don't think it's a place for downtown living, multi-family housing. That's not the place for it. So I kind of like driving through the center of town on a Sunday and there ain't nothing happening. There's nobody there. It's kind of nice. It's quaint. It reminds me of little Mayberry town. So a beautification of it, I would be interested in.
All right, Councilman.
You've probably asked the million-dollar question. If we were to put our residents in a room, and that would be one of the main questions that they would debate, I'm sure. We have many longtime residents, and that's the beauty of our town, that we have people there for multiple generations. And that also sometimes makes change difficult. So what we need to do is come to a compromise of what the people will accept. I do not concur with the naysayers who go, nothing has ever worked there, so nothing ever will work. I just think we need to get the right thing, and that's through collaboration with our residents and a developer. I agree with Mr. Trakas, an outside developer, someone who wants to infuse dollars into that section of our town. I saw an aerial picture that was shared with us on Console a few months back of downtown Independence, and it was sad. It was actually sad. It looked like a ghost town, and none of us wants that to be a representation. We have so much more to offer, and I have to say that I think the downtown will become one day, hopefully not in 54 more years, hopefully sooner than that, it will one day become the visage of what Independence is about, the heart and soul of our people, and it needs to represent what our people want there.
I've heard a lot of residents saying that they hope to see, more like little restaurants, coffee shops, quaint little bars. Is that possible to go in the downtown area?
You're asking me if it's possible. It's possible. The problem becomes we then need the population to support that. Historically, and again, Mr. Trakas gave the example of the grocery stores. We've had different entities, and even some of the ones that we currently have in downtown, they struggle. So if we can do it, but we have to have our population supportive of it, and then I do believe it has to be a place that outsiders have to want to come to as well, kind of like Sugar and Falls. You have to have something that will attract them, because the combination of the two, I think, can make it financially viable.
Councilman, is there anything you'd like to add?
Independence is kind of interesting because we do have Pleasant Valley, we have Rockside Road, which has many restaurants, many businesses, and a lot of activity separate from the center of the town. So the question is, do you spread them out between the two? But I think, when you look at the center of town and you see an old home that the city owns that was rented, which the people have moved out of, and we should not allow that to be rented. And you have the C&B garage, which is the same as it was when we were kids, and half of that is not serving a useful purpose. I think there's room to change the center of the town. I'm not opposed to green areas, you say, but I think we'll get to more. And I think if you drive through Hudson and you look at what they've done, there's a lot of opportunity for us to bring in things that would be a destination to go to for entertainment and things of social purpose, as opposed to simply the economic aspect.
All right, Mr. Trakas?
Yeah, I concur with my colleagues. I think there's a lot of good energy and a lot of good discussion going on. I think we have to be very forward-thinking in putting something like this together. And as Councilwoman Kapusta said, it has to be the right program. And I think the right program is a combination of some of these ideas. But you have to make it a destination. You got to make it a green space and a public space so that people want to be there. And I think we can build some of that. But if to making it a major retail establishment, I don't think that we have the population to support that.
Mr. Narduzzi?
Most major developers do their homework and they know the right locations to go and where to develop their land. If it was such a hot spot, they'd be coming, knocking down our door saying, we want to come here. Tell me what we got to do. I've been involved for the last 10 years in trying to create this downtown district that we're trying to create to no avail. I mean, first of all, we can't get our residents to change the charter to even allow us to do something down there. Yet when we have meetings after meetings after meetings, the debate goes on and on, what should be down there. So we're fighting amongst ourselves to say what we should put down there, when in reality, a developer's basically not coming and saying, we want to come in, this is what we want to do. So it's got to be very creative to make it work. I'd hate to have it fail.
All right, so one of the biggest complaints I've been hearing from residents is about Rockside Road, the traffic. People are saying, you know, especially during rush hour, it's pretty terrible. So what can the city do to help improve the flow of traffic? Councilwoman, would you like to go first?
What traffic? Yes.
She works for Beechwood Chamber, I think.
We obviously made an attempt when the $30 million improvement was placed into Rockside Road, and that did help. We're not going to deny that. I have to give you a little secret, though, more. From our residential standpoint, what we've learned to do is avoid it during the rush hours, and you know, by going Brecksville North or going down to Pleasant Valley. But that obviously is not the answer, because we know we respect our business community, and they're our customers as well. And we continually look at options. We are actually right now looking again at another possible interchange with access into the city off of the highways, because it's not just a Rockside Road problem, it's an interstate problem as well. And when it becomes an interstate problem and our traffic starts backing up there, obviously ODOT gets involved, and they're not happy for that. So we're looking at that. We're looking at an additional lane looking off of going on to 77 South. So we've reconstructed traffic signals and things on Rockside Road till the day is long. So, but we do listen to our business community too, and we're trying to see, sometimes they have options because they live it every day. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Narduzzi, go ahead.
First of all, it's a good problem to have. If you got a lot of traffic on Rockside Road, that means that the business district is growing. We invested $30 million in Rockside Road, and I think it worked, because it didn't seem to be as crowded before we invested all that money. So we had to do something right. Second of all, there's always ways to deal with traffic. We can do marginal roads running east and west along Rockside Road, which we're trying to accomplish now, acquiring some land. I think the city's laying the groundwork. We've just purchased 250 acres of property that we can put other roads in that would eliminate some of the traffic on Rockside Road. And of course, the big one would be, it would be beautiful for the City of Independence if we could acquire an exchange off of 480, but we have to work with ODOT on that one.
All right, Mr. Trakas?
Summing up, I think we have done a lot as a city to try to create better traffic flow. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars just on traffic signals alone, and so I think we're doing our job. This is the fifth largest intersection in the state of Ohio. It's the fifth busiest in the state of Ohio. And the Department of Transportation has not been particularly open to helping us provide any type of a feeder system there. So, you know, the reality of the situation is that as long as ODOT, who has Uncle Sam's dollars, don't think that we deserve to have anything changed there, I don't think much is going to change there. The city has done a lot to alleviate congestion. Now, obviously, there are opportunities to take some of the traffic into different avenues, but those are expensive, and you need a lot of support, and you have a lot of property that's owned by somebody else. So I think that's why it hasn't been done, and I think the reality is it probably won't be done.
All right, Councilman Wagner?
I'm a little bit more optimistic than that. I do think that we're going to fund an additional lane from Rockside Road onto 77. We're looking first south. We're going to also see what we can do to get north. Of course, once you get on there, you also have to get it off of 77. So ODOT is seeing the issue too. And I think they're looking for additional solutions and another exit to 480, one way or the other, to come in or come out. Maybe it won't be a full exchange at the same spot. Maybe there'll be one lane that will bring you in and another separate lane in a different place that will take you out. But I do think we are very sensitive to that. I think that progress is being made. I think we have ODOT's attention on the issue, and I think you'll see some improvement. We're very sensitive to try to improve it, and we're taking some measures right now with funding to make some changes.
All right, Mr. Narduzzi, is there anything you'd like to add?
Just looking at one of the problems now is that northbound lane off of 480 is closed, so people have to exit onto Rockside Road. And I know just sitting there watching the trucks and the cars come off of the exit ramp to be on Rockside Road for about 1,000 feet and then get back on 77 doesn't help the situation, especially at rush hour, because that light is just, you got to keep the traffic on Rockside Road moving, and if it's not moving, it just backs everything up. So.
All right, Mr. Trakas?
Yeah, I think the answer is that we need a lot of help from a lot of people. We've got to come up and work collaboratively with Seven Hills, with Garfield Heights and other communities, as we've been doing. The discussions that this council has made with Seven Hills have been very positive, and I think we need to continue working with our neighbors on that. That's a regional collaboration that we didn't really talk about. But you need a lot of help to do that, and the department has rejected a number of our requests, the Department of Transportation, in the past. So I hope General Wagner is right about that. I'm a little pessimistic because I work down there with those folks in Columbus, and new ideas go to die at the Department of Transportation, but they're all God's children, and we hope that they have enlightenment someday.
All right, Councilwoman?
Point on two things, one regionalism and then the other Councilman Wagner's comment. With regionalism, we even do that on Rockside as far down as Valley View, because we will be collaborating with their police department on issues and concerns, whether it's a water main that's broken or flooding, which we have periodically down there in the valley, and we'll do that to try to adjust our signaling and things. We'll have police officers up at the intersections to help with the flow. So we try to do those different things. As far as the ODOT, I agree with Councilman Wagner. We are working close with ODOT, and if you heard my earlier comment, I think they're more invested now because the cars are backing up onto their interstates. So hopefully they'll be more helpful to us.
All right. So, Mr. Trakas, you were a former councilman, state representative, and were once seen as an up-and-comer in the Republican Party. In 2013, you were the executive director of the State Board of Cosmetology, but after the Inspector General found you improperly involved yourself in disciplinary action against salon owners and told them you could make a fine go away, you said it was time to step out of politics. Why did you decide to run again?
Yeah, well, thanks for the question. I hadn't thought about that in a while. The reality of the situation is that I did the best I could to protect the Board of Cosmetology from somebody who I felt was being unjust to a licensed salon licensee in the state of Ohio. And I intervened, and the directors of state agencies do this all the time. I said that we would have a fine. The fine structure was dependent on the board, and I would recommend to the board that they wouldn't have a fine in this thing because the person who they were trying to fire, her mother was a whistleblower. And I thought that was unfair, that they would try to fire somebody because their mother reported them for a violation. So I became a political fall guy, and I thought that that was pretty unfair the way I was treated, to be honest with you. But that's the way the ball bounces. Politics is a strange profession. My goal is with a couple people who are good people who are running for mayor of this town. I think I have a skill set that can be beneficial. I know how to accomplish things. I work collegially with people. I've got a lot of ideas, and I hope I can offer myself to the people as one of the 7 people who can help lead the community. So I don't have ambition. I don't want to do anything else. I run a small business with my wife, and we enjoy it, and we help people through addiction and substance abuse problems. And I just try to offer some expertise to the people of Independence.
Great. All right. So for the other candidates, would you welcome Mr. Trakas back to council? All right, Councilwoman Kapusta, go ahead.
Yes, I think a person should be evaluated on their entire record, and in this case, political record. I know what Mr. Trakas has said now to be valid, and I hope that it's valid. I'm sure it is. And what I've read in the paper. So that's very narrow is what I'm trying to say. And so I need to look at the broader spectrum. And I think, again, as I said on earlier issues, it will be the voters who determine if any of us come forward as council members.
All right, Councilman Wagner?
I certainly would welcome him to council. I think that it is, I won't use the word inappropriate to bring it up, but unnecessary. He has a proven record of service to the city and to the state and to the residents, both at the state and the city level. And you can look at each of us on any one given day. We could probably lose our job for something we did or didn't do. And it has nothing to do many times with the merit of it.
All right, Mr. Narduzzi?
I have all the confidence in Mr. Trakas. I mean, he's a young, ambitious, self-employed person who knows what it is to earn a dollar and to have a family and take care of that family. And I mean, he's an independent person who was brought up with the same virtues that I was, you know. And as a councilman, you know, profit is first. You have to be able to have the ability to keep our economic base growing to support everything we have. So he's been there. He understands government. He knows where it's coming from. I would have no problem supporting him.
All right, so Mr. Trakas, for you, what are your goals? You know, you said a little bit why you're running and why you decided to run. So what do you hope to see out of this?
Thank you. Well, I'm very humbled, and I thank my fellow candidates for those nice comments. I have several things that I'd like to try to see accomplished in addition to some of these big picture issues that we've talked about. I have three very specific things I'd like to try to see done that I think are fairly unique. One would be to do that tax revenue sharing where you would be able to help out the school district. It would help keep property taxes lower in the future, my hope would be. And I think that the city's growing enough, and with some of these great economic development proposals that are out there, I think the city will continue to grow revenue-wise, and we can share that revenue with our schools and be able to keep property taxes where they are or close to where they are. I'd like to also do something that I think Councilwoman Kapusta had talked about a lot during her days working with the city, and that would be to expand the ability to help people stay in their homes. And I think that if we were able to put together, I kind of have an idea to create a rewards card. And so you go to Panera Bread and they give you a rewards card. I'd like to have an independent citizens and independent workers rewards card where you get participating businesses to help put together discounts so that we can help our people, both who work and who live in our community. And I also like to try to use our purchasing department to help negotiate rates with willing suppliers who might be able to have common things like lawn mowing and snow plowing and other types of common household things put together in a list, help negotiate a price that the 7,000 plus residents can leverage that and be able to help lower costs for people who live in town. So those are three little ideas that I've had that I'd like to advance, and hopefully I'd get a chance to do so.
Great, thank you. Councilman Wagner, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I think that this is an important election period. I think most important is we have two quality candidates running for the office of mayor, both who come from strong independence families, both good athletes, good academic, good business credentials. So I think we have two fine men running, and I would like to help them transition and help either of them be successful. I don't look to be a career politician. If elected this time, I won't run again. I would have served 4 times, and I think it's time to get out of the way then and let somebody else do it. I'm doing this to what I believe is a service. I think I enjoy looking at things critically, to analyze them and make sure that we've looked at advantages, disadvantages, costs, risks, benefits, and then we make a decision what to do. And I've enjoyed working with the council in the last 2 years as we have done that together. And so I see this as a service. I want to provide what benefit I may to that process and make sure that we maintain the character, the quality of our services, the character of our town, and we keep the economic base there to help that continue for many years to come.
All right, Mr. Narduzzi?
I would like to develop a point of sale inspection for our homes. Every time a home sells or trades hands, the city is notified. The city goes in and does a point of sale inspection, which means bringing up the inside, outside of the home up to code. It keeps the value of the homes up, which is goal number one in Independence. Once the values start to drop, the neighborhoods change. I'd also like to implement renters inspections. If you own a home in Independence and choose to be a landlord, the city's going to come in twice a year and they're going to inspect the inside of the home for any kind of code violations, and the outside of the house too. They do drive-bys and they will inform you. I'd like to know who the landlord is. He has to register with the city. I would like to know who the renter is. I'd like to know who's living in our neighborhoods, who's living next door. And the city needs to take control of that. There's more and more houses being rented in Independence, and one, the value of the home goes down, the value of the neighbor's home goes down. People aren't taking care of it like it's their own. So I think we need to nip it in the butt before it gets out of hand and create policies that will ensure that the, what do I want to say, the value of the neighborhood doesn't decline.
All right, Councilwoman?
Okay, I'll pick up right where Mr. Narduzzi left off with the value of the neighborhood. If I were to tell you the number one issue that residents have probably shared with me during my 2 years on council, it has been their concern about deterioration, changes in the neighborhood. So I think that's an excellent place to start, and that would certainly be a goal that I would continue to support. We have worked with our building department. We need to encourage our residents to take advantage, though, of other things that are available to help them. For instance, we do have residents who would like to improve their property, but financially are not able to. There are county loan programs and there's other resources that, while I was working for the city, and even now, I try to continue to direct people to so they know that there's a way to help them. Obviously, in the bigger picture, we want to keep working with the area planning, want to work with fiscal responsibility, which doesn't mean we're not going to spend money, but we're going to spend it wisely and for the appropriate things. I also would like to see the development of more partnerships. We have great resources in our community. You've heard mention of the schools. We also have economic resources in terms of what Rockside Road has to offer. We have educational resources. We've had a tremendous growth in education with places like the Kent Podiatric College. We now have the county Special Services Center right on Rockside Road. We're not tapping into that. I think we can do that. And the third component I think we could tap into is our medical resources. We now are home to the Cleveland Clinic, University Hospital, and Metro. We need to garner those resources.
All right, great. Thank you all. Candidates, you now have 10 minutes to ask each other questions. Councilman Wagner, would you like to start?
Load them up.
I guess one thing I would say, which is not a question, is I think that in the past 2 years we've worked very hard together to accept different points of view and figure out where there's middle ground. And I think that that's probably where we're at the same point here. I think everyone here cares tremendously about the city. And from our own point of view, we want to help do what we think is right. And so it's not as though I have a challenge I would lay to anybody here, but I guess I think cost is a major factor for us. You know, how do we keep the budget where it's at? How do we keep the income up? And I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on what we could do that we haven't already considered, because I think we've considered a pretty broad range of topics there.
I think council in a whole and the past administration is working in the right direction now. It's all about economic growth. We've been blessed. We have a gold mine on Rockside Road. We've got to keep that going strong. We've got to build for the future, and we've got to take care of those people on Rockside Road. I mean, the traffic issue came up. To me, that's good news. Not if you're a resident trying to, get through Rockside Road, but if you look at it, it's good news. That means that Rockside Road is working. People are coming there. People are working there, and they're spending their tax dollars, or Independence is reaping the benefits from their tax dollars.
We need to continue to make money, or to spend money to make money, I should say. And I think that's what's important. We need to understand where, as a community, we have to expend our dollars to attract businesses, to maintain businesses, to support businesses. And that, I think, Councilman Wagner, is what you were talking about when you said this past 2 years, we've gone in that direction. Are we a zero? Did we add no money onto our expenses? Of course not. We made the decision to buy the 33 acres off of Rockside Road in the northwest quadrant for $2.5 million. Some residents may look at that with askance and wonder why, but we looked at it after much discussion and decision making as a council and felt that was a good use of our money because it was an investment. And those are the kinds of dollars that I think we need to wisely continue to expend to make ourselves grow as a community.
And we have had some developers come, and one of the things we have learned is that developers want to come to a place where they're not going to have to fight to get what they need to build on. And so we have tried to put together some parcels of land that could be developed. And I think we have some progress going along in that direction. Yes, senior housing, it's funny, we talk about senior housing, and we haven't really broken the code on that one. But again, we have some potential opportunities, I think, for that.
I think one of the difficulties with senior housing is that people have an expectation of what they want to spend on senior housing, and then when we come up with some of these proposals, they're probably so high-end that people think, gee, I'm retired, I don't know how I'm going to do that. So I think there's got to be some type of a blend if we do go down that route again, really find out the facts about how do you create an affordable senior housing. The other issue that's always been in Independence is, well, how do you only have it for your residents? And the answer is you can't only have it for your residents. But I think that's kind of in the mindset of people who vote, say, well, it should be for our residents. So that has been a preventative issue in the past. I also think that this is a real collaborative group here, and some of the great ideas that have come forward, I hope that the next council, it's time to implement. So Mayor Kurtz has really put a lot of proposals on the table, and our next mayor and council have a lot to do. Sometimes they might want to go in a different direction, but at least there's a lot of different ideas that are floating around there. And overall, the most important thing is, how do you benefit the constituency? That's the main idea.
All right, thank you. Council members and candidates, any other thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
I just would like to expand a little bit on the senior housing. Affordable is always an issue, but that's no different than saying one of us could afford a Lexus and the next one is a Volkswagen. We have to understand that the product that we will develop may not meet everyone's needs, but that shouldn't prevent us from trying to meet many of the needs in our community. And in reference to your earlier comment, Mr. Trakas, about keeping seniors in their homes, I support that 100%. That's what I did for 14 years when working with the city as a senior coordinator. But two things. One is, there are some people who we should not help to sustain in their homes because they're not really safe there. They need services beyond, and sometimes they are reluctant to make that move because we don't have it to offer. So maybe they would go to the assisted living. We have people who could afford, but they just don't want to leave our home, our hometown. And I think it's sad when we make them make that choice. So I'd like to see that. The other thing is, with senior housing, some people don't want to live any longer in their homes. So I found that to be true as well. So we'll need to look at all those options.
All right. Anyone else have any other thoughts?
With the senior people, often there's a transition to where you're independent and assisted, and then you get into some greater care. And unfortunately, as a senior person, you don't know when that time might come when you have to make the transition. And so it's tricky. I think staying in your home as long as you can is the best option. But then if there's a way to transition, if it costs you too much money, then you may not have the money or be invested in the right place for when you need the assisted care. So I think you're right. If we can provide, because we don't have the total solution doesn't mean we can't have a solution for part of it. Mm-hmm. I look at the Oaks in Brecksville as a facility that, if we had an Oaks in Brecksville, how that could only be positive. There are some facilities that care for people that you wish it could be right here. You go out there and the rows are filled with Independence people.
I agree 100%. Location is the big issue, I think. I mean, if we talk about economic development, I don't think you want to have a facility like that in the center of your downtown area. I just don't think that it would work. So I agree, it's needed. We had to put my mother in a nursing home. It's not an easy thing to do. It's needed. I'm going to need it someday. Everybody on this board is probably going to need it at some point in their life. Location of where it would work in Independence is a big question.
Now, an argument made for downtown, though, you guys are talking about how retail possibly could not work. If you had maybe, this assisted living, independent living, senior apartments, something, condos, I guess, those people would be able to walk to, that grocery store or that nice little cafe. So couldn't that also, help retail, I guess, build up in the downtown area?
It all sounds good. It all sounds good, but try to get it by the voters, because I don't know how many times it went to the ballot already.
I think it goes back to another point that I believe you made too. The developer has to have the vision that it will work there. And so you have to combine other things with it sometimes to make it be successful.
And we would want the developer to be successful because we do not want it to fail. After waiting, I've been waiting a long time, still waiting for a Browns victory too, but so we don't want it to fail. So whatever it is has to be the perfect thing.
All right. And I'm not sure that downtown is not the right place. I don't necessarily agree with that. It depends where in downtown. We have different components. The issue back in 2005 where we were working with Betty Kemper was behind the Lutheran Church. So that is not considered typically to be prime building area for companies or for services that want to move in. Maybe it is a good place for seniors.
All right, any other thoughts?
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. So that's all the questions we have for the candidates of Independence City Council. Thanks again for joining us, and please check back to cleveland.com to read stories about the debates, the issues, and the candidates for the upcoming election. Early voting starts October 6th. Thank you, candidates, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you for
having
having
us.
us. Thank you.